In the previous class, we discussed about packages, as well as we discussed about pip. So I just briefly explain about 1 or 2 minutes what happened in the last class, so that I will continue the today's session. Everyone able to see my screen also, right? Okay. If you try to see this particular example, the game is a package. Under the packages, some sub-package is also available. In the sub-packages, every package must contain the init.py module. So, the remaining are load, play, and pass. Everything module name is load, play, and pass. So, if I want to access the load module, what we need to do? I need to use the dot operator, game dot sound dot game import game dot level dot start, or import game dot sound dot load module. Like this way, we can able to access the packages. You can able to access the modules which are present in the packages. So what is pipe? Like pip is like it's a kind of installer. Like if you want to install n number of packages based on the client requirement, based on the project requirement, n number of packages are available in the web. So we can able to install by using the pip command. If the pip command is also not available, pip is not also not available, you can able to install by using the easy underscore install followed by the pip. We can able to install the pip. So after that, if I want to install anything, any packages, I need to use the pip and followed by the install keyword and followed by the whatever the package is name. If you want to whatever I want to install, I need to provide the package name followed by the install command. Okay, these are the things we discussed in the last class. And if it is executable file, then it is the extension is .whl. Otherwise, we need to download the tar file, we need to extract, and we need to check where the setup file is there, and we need to Python setup.py and install. We need to install first to compile, and then we need to install that particular folder. Understanding, right? These are the things we discussed in the last class. Whenever you are using the sudo command, it will affect the root folders or operating system. So to overcome these issues, we need to go by the two ways we can overcome this issue. The first one is the per user side packages. Second one is the virtual environment. Per user side package means individual accounts, individual users. We can install, it won't affect the other users which are present in the same computer. So virtual environment means we can clone the operating system. You can clone the operating system. That is a virtual box kind of thing. So whatever the installs are happened in the virtual box, it is not at all going to affect on the whatever the operating system which is present on your computer. Okay, these are the two ways. What is a package means? Package index store. It's contain the information about information about the software and release versions. So these are the submitting package to the package index. We can create our own packages and we can submit it to the forum as well. Python forum or Python community allow to take your own packages also. So package means like it's a collection of modules. If you whatever the similar kind of modules, if you want to group all the modules, so we can create one particular package based on the guidelines which is provided by which is already defined by the Python community. Based on those instructions, under those guidelines, you can create your own package and we can submit it to the Python community. So this is related to files we discussed. Now move on to the today's session. Today is the most important session. Everyone try to focusing on this today's session. Why? Because OOPS is the major advantages or major features which every client required those OOPS features. So if you want to reach or if you want to reach the customer requirement, definitely most of the project follow the OOPS concepts only. Most of the that doesn't mean procedure oriented programming language has some drawbacks or some disadvantages. That is true, but it is a powerful programming language, even procedure oriented programming language also. But some of the additional features are there in the OOPS concepts. We'll discuss about what is a procedure oriented programming language and what is object oriented programming language, and what are the advantages of procedure object oriented programming language over procedure oriented programming language. And we are going to discuss about the what is a class, and what is self variable, and what is a method, and what is a constructor. Some of the examples related to class, self variables, method, and constructor. Everyone, please try to focusing on today's session. Why? Because OOPS concepts are available in so many good programming languages, just like a Java, just like a C++. Every programming language, most of the programming follow the OOPS concepts. Most of the programming languages having the OOPS features. What are those OOPS features, and why we need to use the OOPS features? We'll discuss about these things today's session. Okay. First of all, before discussing about OOPS concept, we'll discuss about what is a procedure oriented programming language. We'll discuss about what is a procedure oriented programming language. Well, might be if I'm not wrong, I discussed about procedure oriented programming language in the previous classes, but still I'm going to recollect the information today's session as well. So try to focusing on the session. A program in a procedure oriented programming is a list of instructions. Note this point, this one, list of instructions which each statement tells the computer to do something. Each statement, initialize this variable, calculate the evaluate the expression, print the result. Each and every statement means each and every statement in the programming language which terminate with the colon symbol. Terminate the colon symbol. If it is a Python programming language, no need of providing the colon symbol. But other programming language, statement means the line which is ended with the colon symbol, means you need to take some action on this particular line. Statements means that only. Each statement tells the computer to do something. Each and every time I'll say this one, initialize the variable and evaluate the expression and print the variable. Each and every time I need to interact with the computer. In the procedure oriented programming language, it focuses on the procedures. Procedure means functions and algorithms, indeed to perform the deriving a computation. It mainly focusing on the procedure instead of the data. Actually, any programming language, if you take any programming language, why we need to have these many programming languages in this particular world? Why these many programming languages are existing? We need to manipulate the data. We need to get the desired output. All these functions, procedures, methods, everything, inbuilt data, inbuilt functions, user-defined functions, everything. Why all these functions are available? All these programming languages are available for manipulating the data. So, instead of focusing on the data, it mainly focusing on the procedure. So, this is one of the drawbacks in the procedure-oriented programming language. So when program becomes larger, it is divided into functions. Obviously, everyone knows about the functions now. If you want to repeat the set of tasks or a set of actions repeatedly, we need to make it as one particular block, and we are going to give name to that particular block. It means I want to complete the specific task. I want to complete the specific task. That's why we need to use the functions. And I can reuse the functions, reuse the code in the functions, reusability purpose, and reduce the lines of the code. Then you need to use the functions. It is divided into functions, and each function has clearly defined purpose. We already discussed about the definition of the function. Definition of the function means the function is used for the specific task. For doing the specific task, we need to use the functions. So clearly define the what is the purpose of defining that particular function. What is the purpose of defining that particular function? Dividing the program into functions and module is one of the cornerstones of a structured programming language. We're just dividing the functions and modules. So that is the only you are doing the entire procedure-oriented programming languages. So this is also very good only. Without using functions also we can complete the task which is assigned by the customer or which is assigned by whoever assigning task to me. Without function also I can able to complete that particular task. But the number of lines of code is going to get increase. So here you need to remember one point. Bill Gates stated one of the important and very good quotation about the lazy people. You need to remember whenever you are doing the program, you must remember this quotation. Whenever I want to assign any task to, if I want to assign any task to any another person, I'll choose the lazy person to do that particular task. Why? Because he is going to complete that particular task. If he is going to find out the easy way to do that particular task. Might be everyone might be read the quotations, right? You must remember this quote whenever you are doing any programming language. Whenever you are starting any task. Don't focusing on the lazy word. Here you need to focusing on the shortest way to do that particular task. You need to focusing on the shortest way you need to complete that particular task. You need to focusing on that statement, not on the lazy statement. So procedure-oriented programming languages are C, Basic, Fortran. These are the procedure-oriented programming languages. What is procedure-oriented programming language now? Step by step it got executed. One statement, second statement, third statement. Each statement it is going to interact with the computer to do something that particular task. So understanding, right? Procedure-oriented programming language. What are the characteristics of procedure-oriented programming language? It focusing on the process rather than the data. See, if the data is not there, why we need to go for the process? It focusing on the process rather than the data. It take a problem as a sequence of things to be done, such as reading, calculating, printing. Hence, a number of functions are written to solve a problem. Number of functions are written to solve a problem. A program is divided into a number of functions. Each function has clearly defined purpose. We already mentioned that particular point in the previous slide. Again, you can see a program is divided into number of functions, and each function has clearly defined what is the purpose of that particular function. Most of the functions share global data. This is one of the drawback of the procedure-oriented programming language. How we can overcome in the object-oriented programming language related to the global data. Data move openly around the system from function to function. All our local variables and global variables are available. You can easily call the global variables in the entire function. So how can we restrict those kind of things using the object-oriented programming language? So we'll see some of the drawbacks of such structured programming language. It emphasizes on doing things. Data is given to a second class. So second priority to the data. Second priority to the data. The first priority in the structured programming language is a process. It will give the high priority to the process, giving the next level priority to the data. So even though data is a reason for the existing the program, you need to recollect this particular. You need to stress this particular word. Why? Because even though data is the reason for existing of the program, I am writing the program for calculating how many employees are present in that particular organization, or I want to know how many students are there in that particular college. I want the data of that particular college. So for that particular data, I need to define a variable, define a method, or define a function. This is the process of identifying the how many people are there in that college. This is the process for how many people are existing in that particular company. So my reason is I want manipulating the data. I want the data. So instead of focusing on the data, we are focusing on the process. So since every function has complete access to the global variable, see, I can access the function. I can access the function anywhere in the program. That particular function dot, I can do whatever I want. So I can access the functions anywhere in the program. The new programmer can corrupt the data accidentally by creating a function. See, this is the global variable, right? Or global function, right? Global function means the same name with another function must not exist. Why? Because the function name ABC is already defined with his own purpose. Another person will come, he will try to access the same functions, or he will going to create the same function with the different argument. It is not going to get possible. Why? Because it's already created. If you means his function is not going to get executed and your function is not going to get executed. Why? Because function has global nature is there. You can access globally, you can access the functions. That is the reason. So that is the reason if you want to overcome these issues, we need to follow the OOPS concept. I am stressing all the words. Why? Because this is most important things. If you understand the procedure-oriented programming language, if you understand the object-oriented programming language, then only you will get to know in whatever the requirement given by the customer, you can understand that particular requirement. You need to go which language I need to use for completing this particular task. Choosing the programming language is also one of the important and critical tasks while completing that particular project also. So choosing the programming language is also very important. So based on the requirement, based on the client requirement, I need to choose whether I need to go for the procedure-oriented programming language or whether I need to go for the object-oriented programming. That's why you need to know what are the drawbacks are there. Procedure-oriented programming language focusing on which are all the things, and object-oriented programming language focusing on which are all things. What are the drawbacks are there in the procedure-oriented programming language? How it overcome in the object-oriented programming language. So all these things you need to aware of before start doing any project. So this is one of the drawback is functions can able to access the globally. So if the functions are very less, the client given requirement is very small task, you can go for the procedure-oriented programming language instead of object-oriented programming language. So this is the way you need to identify which language I need to use, whether I need to use procedure-oriented or whether I need to use object-oriented programming language. So understanding, right, everyone? By creating, similarly, if new data is added to be modified to access that particular data. If you added a new data, all the functions need to be modified to access that particular data. So it is difficult to create new data. Here you need to remember this particular point as well. All the 3 points are very important. We are not supposed to create a new data type. Means user defined data types. User defined data types. Not there in the procedure oriented programming language. The ability to create new data types of its own is called extensibility. Structure programming languages are not extensible. You need to remember this particular point. Whatever the data types which are present in that particular programming languages. Take the example of data type means it is a structure, means I'm informing to the compiler or informing to the interpreter, this is the data you are supposed to store in that particular memory place. So list means list of variables, tuple means tuples, set means set. So number means number, string string. We are making ready to compile a so and so amount of memory and so and so so and so type of information you need to store on that particular memory location. These are the data types. So create, you are already defined the some data types in the structured programming language. You are not supposed to create your own data types in the structure oriented programming language. So the ability to create a new data type of its own is called the extensibility. The extensibility is not there in the structured programming language. The extensibility not present in the structured programming language. Now everyone understand, right, what I am trying to say till now? What is procedure oriented programming language? Why we need to use the procedure oriented program? When we need to use the procedure oriented programming language? What are the drawbacks of procedure oriented programming language? In the procedure oriented programming language, it focuses mainly on the process instead of the data, and it will execute the step by step, line by line. It follows the sequence of steps, and functions which are present in the procedure we can access globally. So we can't able to make the unique data. If we create one more function in the same way, it corrects the data. Understanding, right, till now? If you understand today class, you can able to you can get to know all the C++, Java, all the programming language you will get to know. There also same things are available. Class, object, these things only. Insecure data. See, try to focus, try to remember one point. Whenever customer given any requirement, the first thing, the first and major thing you need to focusing on the security. You need to think about the, mostly you need to focusing on the security. Then only cost and everything will come into picture. The first priority is security only. The first priority is security. The second priority is that particular GUI of that particular application, whether it is user friendly or not. Whenever you are creating any software, whenever you are creating any application, mainly it focusing on the security, then it is followed by the GUI is user friendly or not. Security in terms of, for example, I created one application. Everyone accessing the data without providing the authentication, or without taking the permission from the owner of that particular data. This is not secure, right? So it for mainly whenever you are creating any software, mainly it need to focusing on the security of data. The security of data is not there in the structured programming language. Why? Because function we can able to access outside everywhere in the program. If we declare a variable before main function, this is the global variable function, then it can be accessed freely from any function present in the program. If I make it as a global variable, I can access those variable in the entire program, inside the function or outside the function, inside the function or outside, anywhere in the program. Difficult to implement today's client requirement. This is also more important. Client will ask every time, most of the time, class variables and functions need to interact each other. That is there in the structured programming language, but up to some extent. If you want to fully interact within the functions and variables, function need to talk variable and variable need to talk functions. In the procedure oriented programming language, functions are getting affected by the variables, but variables are not at all going to affected by the functions. Mutual understanding not at all present in the structured programming language. It is little bit high and a little bit difficult to understand as of now, but try to understand. Variables are functions are getting affected by the variables, but variables are not at all getting affected by the functions. Most of the customer requirement, how it is going to be there, always it need to interact each other, always need to affect it depending on one and another, variables and functions mutually understanding each other. Variables can able to store the data, but functions not able to store the data. Whenever I call that function, it will call, and whatever the variables are there, it is getting initialized that time. And once the scope is getting over, and again whenever you are calling freshly functions, again it will call freshly. Variable can able to store the data, but function can't do. So difficult to implement the today's client requirement. What is the higher view of client is variables and functions mutually communicate each other, mutually affected by one another, but it is not possible in the procedure-oriented programming language. No proper way method of exception handling. This is also most important thing. Exceptions are two types of errors are there. There are two types of errors are there. One is compile time error. Second one is the runtime errors. In the runtime errors means logical errors. Runtime errors means logical error. It is syntactically correct. But the definition of that particular logic is not defined in the compiler side. So simply I will give real-time example as 1 by 0. Simply I will give the example as 1 by 0. 1 by 0, are you able to define? Are you able to define 1 by 0? It will give the infinity. So this is the logical error. This is a logical error. These kind of errors, logical error comes when the compile time, it won't show any error. It will give the output file, runnable file. And once you are running that particular executable file, once you have started running that executable file, that time it will throw some error. That time it will throw. Will come up with one nice idea called object-oriented programming language. The main idea behind object-oriented programming approach is to combine process and data. Previously, in the structure-oriented programming language, it focusing on the process and it will give the second priority to the data. But here, it will give the high priority to the both of them. First process, then data. So into a single unit called an object. We'll discuss about what is object, why we need to use the object. We'll discuss about these things. Hence, it focusing on the objects rather than the procedure. Procedure means what? It's a combination of process and data. It will focus at the same time, focusing on the process as well as the data. Object-oriented approaches views a problem in terms of object rather than the process doing the task. So in this particular instance of time, try to understand each and everything which you are going to represent in the object-oriented programming language. Each and everything is object only. The object is having the state and behavior. Each and everything is in this particular world is object. Pen is object, computer is object, everything in this particular world. The one which is having the state and behavior, everything is going to become the object in this world. So the object-oriented programming, the examples for object-oriented programming languages, C++, Java, VB.NET and C#, .NET and Python. Here you need to remember one point about C++. C++ is not completely object-oriented programming language. It is both the functions are there, procedure-oriented programming language as well as the object-oriented programming. Why? Because some of the features which come under hooks, it will break some of the rules in C++ programming language. That is one of the thing is private variables can able to access in the C++ programming language. If it is a information purpose, You can try to understand. C++ is not a completely object-oriented programming language. You can remember this point. Why it is not completely object-oriented programming language means it breaks the some of the rules of the object-oriented programming language. The one in out that one of the thing is private variables can able to access outside of the class also in the C++ programming language by using the friend function. This is one of the thing need to remember about this one. Java, these are the object-oriented programming languages. C++, Java, VB.NET and C# and C#.NET and Python. Now we will discuss about what are the advantages of OOPS. It implements the program using the object. We already discussed, right? Each and everything which is present in this world is an object to the programming language. Data and functions are wrapping into a single unit called class. The data and member functions or methods are wrapped into one particular single unit. Previously, that particular single unit is called the function. Some of the executable statements we are grouped together for completing one specific task. Then that is called as a function. But the function has some restrictions. Means what are those restrictions? I can't able to store the data in a functions. So those kind of restrictions we can overcome by using the class. So that data is hiding and is safe from the accidental alterations. So how we can hide the data, we'll discuss. How we can hide the data, we'll discuss in the later slides. As of now, try to understand by using the object-oriented programming language, you can hide the data. You can hide the data from the outside world. Objects communicate with each other through functions. Objects are communicating each other by using the functions. New data and functions can be easily added whenever necessary. New data and function can be added whenever necessary. That is also one of the advantages of object-oriented programming language. Data and OOPS is secured as the under cover of classes and their use by functions can be authorized. I can write any name you can give to the function. I can define n number of functions names inside the class. I can give the same name in one class. I can give the same name to another class as well. So it's individually class containing function as ABC. One more function also can able to have in the ABC function also. So there is no corruption of the data is there. There is no you can have proper secure of the data by using access specifiers in the object-oriented programming language. What are those access specifiers? How many types of access specifiers are there? What are the restrictions of access specifiers in the program? We'll see in the upcoming slides. As of now, try to understand we can secure the data also by using the object-oriented programming language. So, what are those OOPS principles in the Python programming language? What are the OOPS principles which are present in the Python programming language are class, object, method, inheritance, polymorphism, data abstraction, and finally encapsulation. Data abstraction and encapsulation. First of all, we'll discuss about what is a class. First of all, we'll discuss about what is a class. Before I'm discussing about technical words of class, object, method, inheritance, and polymorphism, data abstraction, and encapsulation, I will give some real-time examples of these things. Then I will explain. Technically what are these things. Method is also same as a function only, right? Method and function both are same only, right? If you have the function which is defined inside the class, then we can call it as a method only. The function which is defined inside the class, we can call it as a method. So first we'll discuss about class. Class means So it's contain a class contain means see, I want to take one particular class. In that particular class, students must be present, blackboard must be present, marker must, everything. These are things are present in that particular class. Then I can say that is a class. It means what? Class is not going to do anything. Class contain all these things. Class containing people, class containing marker, class containing the whiteboard. So these are all things come under that particular class. So class containing these many things. So then that is called as a class. In the real world, class means what? It's containing something. It's the same data are related. Class containing variables, class containing functions, class containing inside the one more function also. It containing n number of functions. But finally, we can giving one name to that particular entire block. We can give it to one particular name. That is called a class. So I want to, until unless I'm not going to create an object to that particular class, I'm not able to access that particular, I'm not able to access the methods or variables which are present in that particular class. I'm not able to access. So for that one, what I need to do? I need to create an object to that particular class. So for example, take the example, I write 10 classes in one particular file. So in that particular file, 10 classes are there. Until unless I'm not creating an object of that particular class, object means instance of that particular class, I'm not able to access anything which is present in the 10 classes. Means, one more point here you need to remember. Creating a class as it won't allocate any memory to that particular class until unless you are not going to create that particular object. Whenever you are creating any object to that particular class, then only it will allocate some memory to that particular class. Understanding, right? Creating class is not at all sufficient. If I want to use that particular class, I need to create an object to that particular class. Now understanding, right, everyone? Everyone understanding, right? Class means it contain a functions and variables, everything is going to present in one particular block. That particular block name is called as a class. So for accessing this particular class, I need to create an object to that particular class. So everyone is clear, right, about these three things? Class, object and method. Class and object and method, these three things are clear, right? So coming to picture of inheritance. The name itself is mentioning inherit. Inheriting the properties from base class to the derived class. The best example, real-time example for this particular inheritance is parents are giving a property to their children. The real-time example means parents are giving their properties to children. Children are giving their properties to their children. So means, and here one more point you need to remember. I can't tell child not supposed to give his property to the parent. This is one way of inheritance. Means I can inherit the properties of the base class, means which already defined. I am going to use those defined the functions. I can add if I want additional functionality to the derived class. I created one function, I created one particular class. In that particular class, n number of functions are there. I can use those n number of functions by inheriting the base class to the derived class. So this is called inheritance. The real-time example is parents are giving the property to the children. Children are giving the properties to their children. This is called inheritance. What is a polymorphism? Polymorphism means one thing, many forms. One thing, many forms. The real-time example for the polymorphism is The real-time example for polymorphism is yourself only. Why? Because you are a child to your son, your father, child to your father. Whenever you are at home, you are a child to your father. Whenever you reach the college, you are a student of that particular college. You are a student of that particular, your role got changed. Whenever you went visit any supermarket, that time you are customer to that particular supermarket. So the person is same. The person is same, but the roles which are doing by that particular person got changed based on the situation. Based on the situation, the role is going to get changed. Means the person is same, the things are going to get changed. The real-time example of programming languages, in programming languages, plus symbol we can use for the adding a two integers, concatenating a two strings, adding a two objects also. Only plus symbol is same, but the inputs are going to get changed. But still it is going to get work based on the arguments which are passing to that particular, operation. So means here what? The person is same, based on the instance, based on the situation, the person role is going to get changed. That is called the polymorphism. One thing, many forms. One thing, many forms. Data abstraction. Data abstraction. Here, data abstraction means providing the essential information or essential needed to that particular person and hiding the remaining all the features. See, just the best example for a data abstraction is your mobile phone only. Your mobile phone only. The display you can able to see. The display you can able to see. What's going to happen internally if I'm pressing the green button, the call is going to get connected. If I cut the red button, the call is going to get cut. If I open the WhatsApp application, it is going to get open. Facebook, internally what happening, I don't know. But essential information I can able to see, or I can able to operate that particular application. I can able to operate the mobile. Even I don't know the implementation of that particular functions. So this is called abstraction. The one more example is ATM machine, ATM card. If you insert the ATM card, you can draw the money or you can check the money. Internally, what's going to happen, you don't know. Internally, what's going to happen, you don't know. But still, you can able to operate and you can able to utilize that particular function. You can able to utilize that particular function. Understanding, right? ATM is also there, and here mobile phone is also there. But here coming to picture of means what data abstraction means, providing the essential information to the customer or that particular user, hiding the remaining. How I am implementing that particular data, I am not providing. Just I am providing the high level information. So that is called the data abstraction. And the encapsulation. Some little bit confusion is there for the abstraction as well as the encapsulation. Try to focusing on the data encapsulation means it's a combination of data hiding and abstraction is called the encapsulation. Wrapping up of the data and member function into one particular unit, that is called the encapsulation. That is called the encapsulation. Everyone noted down what is the difference between data abstraction and encapsulation. Everyone noted down what is the difference between data abstraction and encapsulation. Now next class, everyone come up with one real-time example for one more you can write. What is the difference between data abstraction, encapsulation and class? Class also. What is the difference between data abstraction, encapsulation and class? The encapsulation means wrapping up of the data and members into single unit, that is called encapsulation. you need to remember about one thing about the encapsulation means the best example. The best example I will give you for this data abstraction and encapsulation. What I give the example for the data abstraction, you can able to see the these are the number of applications which are present in that particular application. I can able to see, I can able to operate. But internal implementation, how this particular display is interacting with this particular keywords, that particular information that is called encapsulation. Front end view is the data abstraction, and how the front end view connected to the internal function, that is called the encapsulation. The best example for encapsulation, the difference between both of them is, if you know the software development life cycle, SDLC model, different phases are there, right? Requirement gathering and analysis, and design, coding, implementation, testing, and deployment, right? Data abstraction solves the design level problems. Data abstraction solves the design level problems. Whenever I am talking about the design, then the data abstraction is coming to picture. Whenever I am talking about the implementation of that particular design, then the encapsulation is coming to picture. Now everyone understanding, right? That is the high level view. This is the internal view. Everyone understanding, right? And you need to come up with one real-time example of what is data abstraction, encapsulation in class, and how we can differentiate with the real world things. Now everyone understand, right? Now, as of now, everyone understand, right? What is inheritance, what is polymorphism, what is abstraction, and what is, these are all things. 6 OOPS features are there, right? Except method, a class, object, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, and encapsulation. It is there in C++, it is there in Java, it is there in whatever the programming language which you mentioned here, VB.NET, C#.NET, everything it is going to be there. Every these features, but simply the syntax is going to get different. Apart from the syntax, everything is same. Apart from the syntax, everything is same. You need to know the definition of each and every OOPS principles. What are the principles which are present in the OOPS? You need to know these things. I gave the one real-time example for each and everything. Inheritance means we are inheriting the properties from the parents to child. Polymorphism means you are based on the situation, your role is getting changed. Abstraction means we are providing the essential feature. ATM is best example. And encapsulation means internal connection, what's going to happen. And one more best example for encapsulation is, means handling a steering in a car. Internally connected properly, then only you can smoothly run on the road. Wheels like if I'm rotating the steering, based on my instruction, based on my input, the car tires are moving from right side or left side based on my actions. By end of the day, those actions are independent but working together for successfully completion of any task, for smoothly running on the road. This is also one more best example for encapsulation. Okay, then we'll see technical definitions of what is a class and what is an object, how we can create a class in a Python programming language, how we can create a class in Python programming language. Think of a class as a blueprint. It is not something in itself. I told you, right? Until unless things are not existing in that particular class, that is not a class. It's simply describing how to make something. It is simply describing that how we can make it. Something. You can create lots of objects from that particular blueprint. Why we need to create an object? For using or initializing that particular class. Knowing technical is an instance of that particular class. How we can, what are the rules and regulations for creating a class? Class is a keyword and followed by the class name. And followed by the class name. The class name always start with a capital letter. As per the coding guidelines, the class name always start with the capital letter and end with the colon symbol. Simply, it is similar to the functions in a Python programming language. Functions, what we will need to do? def followed by the class name and end with the colon symbol. But in the functions, function name start with the small letter and uppercase letter. Uppercase letter and lower case letters, right? Function name start with the lowercase letter and class name start with the uppercase letter. So end with the colon symbol. This is the optional class document string. Here what we need to write in the functions, why we are writing the function, what is the purpose of, defining that particular function in that particular place. Similarly, why we need to write the function class in the class, also we need to write the description about that particular class. And the class suit means you can write the statements or variables in that particular class. The class has a documentation string which can be accessed via class name dot followed by the doc function. This is the, and double underscores are there, right? These are the special functions, the special functions in the Python. These are the special functions in a Python. So if you want to access the what is there in the this particular line, I need to access by using the class name and followed by the dot symbol, and I need to write the special function underscore underscore doc underscore underscore. The class suite consists of all the component statement define the class members. Member means variables, and the data attributes and functions. Data attributes and functions. Functions is also nothing but the functions which are defined in the class is called the methods of that particular class. Methods of that particular class. Now we can try to see one of the example for the class. Class and followed by the my class, and this is the documentation of that particular class. I initialize one of the variable and I created one of the function in that particular class, and the print function I printed that value, and I call the print followed by the my class dot this particular variable. This is the local variable. This is the local variable. There are two types of variables are there. Local variables and instance variables. We'll discuss about instant variables in the upcoming slides. As of now, try to understand this is the local variable. And print my class dot that particular function. Here it will call the only function. It won't call the what are the things which are present in that particular function. It calls only that particular function. So output print my class dot. This is the way you need to create a class, and this is the way you need to call that particular class and that particular class name by using class name dot followed by the variable name, class name dot followed by the function name, class name dot followed by the document. So this is the way you need to create a class, and we can able to access those functions or variables or documents or name. Here you can make underscore underscore name underscore underscore. It will give the name of that particular class. It will give the name of that particular class. We'll see one of the example. We'll see one more thing. Object is an entity that has state and behavior. It may be anything. It may be physical or logical. Example for the object are mouse, keyboard, chair, table, car. Everything which is going to be there in this particular world is object only. It is used to create a new object, instances of that particular class. Until unless you are not going to create object of that particular class, It is not going to get initialized with that particular class. Simply, it will create a class and it won't allocate any memory to that particular class until unless you are not going to create an object to that particular class. The purpose, the procedure to create an object is similar to a function call. You understanding, right? I'm creating a function. I'm defining a function. Until unless I'm not going to call that particular function. Why we need to call that particular function? For completing a specific task. So here also, for doing some activity, I need to create a object to that particular class. It means it is similar to a function call. It is similar to a function call. This is a object. Everyone able to see. OB is a object, and I'm creating an object of my class. My class is a class, and I'm creating an object to that particular my class. This will create a new instance object named OB. We can access attributes of the object using the object name prefix. You can able to access the object name prefix. Here, if I want to print this particular hello keyword, I need to create an instance of that particular class. I need to create a instance of that particular class. Then only I can able to create a. Then only I can able to access the print function, print statement, print statement of this particular function. What is self variable? Why we need to write a self inside that particular one? We'll discuss in the next class. We'll discuss in the next class. Today class, just give the definitions, the theory part. In the next class, I will give the practical example of class and object and self variable. I will explain in detail. Understanding, right? Today it's already time is 12:30, right? So okay, I'll explain this particular example, this example. Then I'll close the today's session, and in the next class we'll start with the self parameter. Try to see class, my class. This is a document. This is the local variable, and defining function. And as of now, try to remember this is a self variable, self argument. Try to remember as of now. If you want to print this particular print statement, what I need to do? I need to create an object of this particular class. Then I need to call the ob dot function. That time what it will do? The output of this particular function is a hello keyword. Why? Because in the previous example, I called print.myClass.function. The output of this one is a myClass.function. But here, after creating an object, I created object and I called the object. I create a function or method of this particular class by using the object.function. Then it will give the output is a hello world. Hello. Why? Because the print statement is there. It is going to call this function and it will see here. Here one point you need to observe. Previously in function, what we have done in the function? If we pass that one parameter here, here one parameter is there. How many arguments I need to pass here? Here one parameter is there. Here, whenever I am calling this particular function, I am not passing any parameters or arguments over here. But still, the code is getting executed and showing the hello the output. Now, try to understand, try to read by yourself without passing the arguments also how this function is working. Without passing the arguments also how this function is working. You need to get back to me once to the next class. Get back to the answer in the next class. What is my query? Without passing the arguments also, here one parameter is there, but I am not passing the any argument in this particular function. But still it is getting executed and print the hello printf statement. So how it is working? So you need to understand, you need to try to analyze why it is working and get back to me. If it is a normal function outside the class, whatever the parameters are there, you need to pass that many parameters to that particular function. Until unless it is special kind of default arguments are there, forget about those things. Normal function, we need to pass the whatever the arguments which are there, whatever the parameters are there, you need to pass that many arguments over here. Understanding, right? So one more task from my side is, so here one more task from my side is, like I will give some of the examples. Today I'll post it in the MOOCs website. Everyone practice all the programming examples. This is the file is there. This contain the programming examples. This contain the programming examples. This contain the programming examples. Everyone practice those programming examples. So see here, write a program to count the number of characters in the string and store them in the dictionary data structures. Till exercise okay, don't go that till okay. Before attending my session, inform to everyone till exercise 6 everyone must practice all the programming examples. Till exercise 6 everyone practice all the programming example which are mentioned in this particular document. I will share this document in the MOOCs folder. If everyone try to download this one and try to practice the exercise which are mentioned in this particular one. So even before attending the next session, I will answer all the programming examples. So I will upload the same thing. You can cross check your programming skills. Understanding, right? Everyone. Thanks for attending the session. Today I have some issues there. Sorry to